Hey y'all, this is Moni.
And this is Kat.
AKA.
And
this is the Fake Ass Book Club. Wait, can we both say it or no?
All right, guys, so welcome back. It's the Fake Ass Book Club. I'm your girl, Moni.
And this is Kat.
What up, Kat?
Oh, you know, just out here hanging out.
Hanging out, I like it. Well, speaking of hanging out, you guys, we have a guest today. Welcome, guest. What up with you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
I'm fantastic.
You see what it is?
Yeah, we've been sitting here kind of chopping up a little bit. Do you mind introducing yourself real quick before we move forward?
My name's Deon Curry, a professional comedian, 38 years old, based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been doing stand-up for 18 years this May. So,
18
yeah.
years? You don't look old enough to say that.
I appreciate that. Lotion, I guess.
Lotion, That's what's up. Well, thank you for being here. This is not your first time.
No,
you actually
second
joined
time.
us.
Yeah.
Yo, it was about
Oh,
this time last year.
right. Oh, my God. It's all coming back to me now.
Is it now?
All
How could you
coming
forget?
back to me
How
now.
could we forget?
Oh, God. Go back and watch that one. I'm
I
gonna.
don't remember which episode it was. But
We'll put it. It's gonna be in the description.
It'll definitely be in the notes, you guys. It was a really fun episode. It's probably
was.
our most referenced.
Was it two-parter?
It was a two-parter.
Yeah.
I think we were trying to stretch it because it was
Milk in my coffee.
milk in my
One of the like book club things we follow on Instagram is doing milk in my coffee.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you leave some comments?
I
for
did.
that?
They were negative.
Listen, so we did.
But people love that book though. Like
It's
most
a
of it was
great
just an
book.
outpouring of love.
And you were like, no, this book sucks.
garbage.
Right. It was basically a wiping my tissue right now. I was like,
Didn't
wow.
love it.
I didn't hate it as much as Kat, but it definitely was giving. I read this in high school. You know what I'm saying? And so I can't shit on that because there's so
I did
much
read it in
media
high
that I
school.
love.
Like, that's exactly what I read.
Yeah, there's so much media that I love from like when I was younger that when I look at it as a woman of my age, I'm like, I can see how this is not, but also I still love it though. So
Sure.
Yeah.
I was gonna let you have it. Deon.
I mean, it's the same with wrestling. Like as
I
a
did
kid,
love
I used to
wrestling.
love
I
wrestling.
get it.
Baby doesn't.
But now I'm grown. I'm like,
What?
are y'all doing?
This is
like,
real bad.
this is
Yeah.
stupid.
Actually.
Not great.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, welcome back to the
Thank
show.
you.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
back.
I know. Listen, we thought you were gonna ditch us today. Like, is he
No.
gonna come? But I'm super excited. You're like the perfect guest for today's show because there was a Netflix special that Kat recommended called Blocks by Neil Brennan, who is one of our faves. I wouldn't say I'm a super fan, but I've followed enough of his stuff.
I'm a super fan.
Yeah, Kat's
I
a
was
super fan of
fucking
everything.
with the champs.
Listen, he's out here in these streets. I really love him. So I'm really excited to talk about his Netflix special. So I think before we get into it, we should probably dedicate this episode. Like we always do, you guys. Hands over your hearts.
Yeah.
Today we want to dedicate our episode to our patrons. As always, thank you so much, you guys. We appreciate you. Also, I want to dedicate this to you, Deon. I mean, you didn't have to show up today.
Yes,
You know
I
what I
did.
mean?
I told you I would be
really-
here, and it
you
would be
did.
a big dick move if I didn't.
A man of his word. I appreciate that about you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And also just the healing power of laughter. I think we touched on that last time.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
comedy is such a needed sort of outlet in our lives. It's one of my main coping mechanisms, and I'm deeply like anything that makes me laugh, people I can be around that like bring that part of my personality out, I'm super grateful for. So just shout out for all the laughs, man. It keeps my blood pressure down and probably for me having an aneurysm. So-
Probably.
Yeah. So,
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a brain surgeon, right?
oh
But,
God.
but I didn't have steady hands, and I had never seen myself bleed before. But then I cut my finger. I had literally just told my dad, because he asked me, he was like, son, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I told him, I said, I want to be a brain surgeon. And then like 15 minutes later, I cut my finger open for the first time, and I passed out at the sight of my own blood,
Wow.
right? So when I came to, my dad was just in stitches. He was just
dying
laughing the hardest I ever heard him laugh my entire life at that point. And he was like, I guess you're not going to be a brain surgeon. And in that moment, it imprinted on me that laughter was my way of healing. Like, because I had never heard my dad laugh like that.
Oh.
And I knew I didn't have steady hands. And the idea of blood to this, like, finger injuries and toe injuries make me cringe so hard. Like, I wouldn't be able to do the work that is required to have that occupation.
Same. Someone told me to go to nursing school. I'm like, you do not know me.
but I found another way to heal. So it's like,
That's
if I can, even if it's just for 30 minutes or an hour, I can get you to forget all the pain that's in your life. Like, that is my new way of operating on you.
That's
And
what's
so-
up.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
See, he's
I'm
with
thankful
me
for
in my
that.
dedication.
Yeah,
Do you have anything?
I
you
do
wanna-
have a
you wanna
dedication
dedicate
today. My dedication today is going out to the surgeon who accidentally killed George Pell.
I didn't hear about this. Who's this?
Cardinal Pell is, you know how like, because it's actually, dedication over. You know how this ties into Neil Brennan a little bit because he does a lot of jokes because he went to Catholic school.
Oh,
and he
same.
says the first thing, same.
High five.
And so the
No.
first question he says he gets asked is, were you molested? And he was like, oh, that's always the sign of a classy organization. And he was like, no. He was like, I didn't get molested. I fucked some priests, but I didn't get molested. That's why I like Neil. I like that
he's
brand of
funny.
humor where it's like, oh, that's actually really messed up when you think about it. But George Pell was the guy who basically came up with the overall cover-up for all the Catholic priest pedophiles and the pay structure to pay out the victims, and was a convicted pedophile himself.
Jesus.
So,
Which
and he was also
tracks.
third highest in command in the Vatican as well. So,
Oh my
yeah. So, thank you, surgeon. And actually, here's the thing, because like we
feels
get
really
into like, you know, we're into storytelling. It's a
I like
it's
it.
a book club.
It's my fave.
So in my mind, like if this ever becomes like a movie of the week about his life, I want the anesthesiologist to be a kid that he had molested.
That is so good. I'm
That
ready to die.
realized and was
Extra
just like, because you can
propofol.
make it. I mean, he was in his 80s. You just have to turn
Their
that.
hearts fail all the time. Trust me. I've been
Sure
in there
do.
doing. I've been in there taking
Sure
X-rays of you
do.
can't breathe no more, sir.
And it might have just been like, you know what?
Look,
Oopsie, oopsie. And then we'll just blame the surgeon.
that part. And you signed the waiver saying that you
Sure
knew
did.
It was,
And who knows? The Catholic Church is deep. They might have ordered the hit.
Wow.
So yeah,
I didn't hear about that, friend.
yeah, that's why I'm bringing it up
crazy.
now.
That's
Most people
gross.
didn't hear about it. It's super gross. And once
Wowzers.
again, they're really good at managing media. Like the fact that we don't talk about this constantly is a testament to how good they are at managing their image.
It matters. I mean, that part. It definitely
There's a knock at the door, guys.
No, right?
Boy,
that's
they're worse
real.
than the mob, because even in the mob, if they find out you're messing with kids, they kill you. So
Oh.
the mob, you can make the argument the mafia is more moral than the Catholic Church.
Okay, and so we're going to talk about. We're going to move into
Blocks.
Blocks by Neil Brennan.
comedy. You know what I'm saying? Like, my God.
But that's his brand of
Wow.
comedy.
You know what? I have to give you that.
It's
I
a
do
little
love that
blue. I
about
think
him.
yours is too. That's why we wanted to have you on.
This is perfect. This is perfect.
Yeah, I'm definitely a darker sense of humor type person. And as I was watching this, I was thinking to myself, fuck, why did I think of that?
That's always how you like to do it. Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Because I paint too, and a lot of times when I see work, I'm like, oh, I wish I'd done that.
Yeah.
Why hadn't I done that at all? My God.
I've
Well,
actually
and I
met
mean-
Neil. He's a super nice
Oh,
man.
word?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
he
good.
seems
That's good to
cool.
hear.
Yeah.
You always want the people you like to be cool, but I've also gotten to a point too where I'm also fine.
I've accepted it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
like if you make good work.
Yeah.
I'll take that. Well, so I'm gonna give you, like, if you're not familiar with who Neil Brennan is, you guys, just a little bit about him. He's a 3-time Emmy-nominated writer, director, producer, and podcaster. He's also a stand-up comedian. He's best known, I would say, probably for the Chappelle Show, Half Baked. Half Baked has to be one of
Three
my
mics.
favorite terrible movies,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
ever. But I love, like, when I say I love that,
He
movie
said he
so
was like,
hard.
oh, he's like, I think we made a weed movie for
For
kids.
kids, yeah.
Basically, like that's one of my
I
favorites.
Well,
loved
they
it.
waited to the last minute to write that movie.
I know
Yes,
the story
and
about
I-
that is hilarious.
Love it. Like just like
It's the guy on the couch.
it
like I'm
takes
sorry,
19
that shit
because
was
were they like
hilarious.
19?
Yeah.
I feel like it takes
Perfect.
that kind of boldness.
You did mention Three Mics. Three Mics was his, I want to say from 2017, his stand up, and so now he's got Blocks, and I'm just super excited to talk about it because it was so good. So he sort of has these colorful carved blocks like on the stage behind him, and each image sort of represents. So like if there's a donkey on there, like his liberal views, and so he kind of dives into like that part of his his identity and how it affects his, reality. And the blocks sort of represent the things, I don't want to say that get in the way.
Yes,
How would you,
they're
like,
blocks. I
they're
think
blocks.
that's
They're literal blocks.
literally in
Yeah,
the way of
okay,
him
okay.
sort of getting along in society. But I feel like
Sure.
that's also an illusion. Like, no one really belongs anywhere. I think everyone relates to this because everyone feels alienated in a way.
In some way
But
or
he's
another.
just articulating it because I think a lot of times people just act like, no, I'm normal. I'm so normal.
Yeah.
You're the one who's not normal. It's
Yeah.
like, no, we're all kind of
I love
faking
it. So to get into his brand of comedy, you said yourself, like, man, why didn't I think about this? Obviously you like his style of comedy, but like, how did you take in this special? Like, you clearly admire it. So tell me a little bit about your
Well, yeah,
like,
I
sort
mean,
of-
he has a way of getting people to understand the ridiculousness of their ideas. To where, he was talking about, excuse me, liberals and how, you can't be liberal enough or you can be too liberal.
I like that.
And that whole concept of the going back and forth, that was the main thing. I was like, fuck, I really wish I had delved deeper into this concept on my own.
Sure.
But now I'm colored by what he said, so I can't really touch it. But he made such great points about how, I want people to not be homeless, but, I want my rent to be cheaper. You know what I mean?
Well, that part, yeah.
So it's like, there's this fine line that you have to walk in order
I
to
think
fit
he
into
called
a-
it, how liberal
Yeah,
are you?
yes. And so you walk this fine line to fit in a group
Yeah.
that you don't really need to be in, but you have to appear that way in order to, not lose opportunities or to get certain deals or whatever. And it's like, as I was thinking about that in my own self, I was like, there's no amount of money that I could make to where I would want to be mean to someone because they didn't have what I have. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I always
That's
felt
crazy.
like, I've never been rich, but I've always felt like if I had enough to live day to day, I wouldn't ever have the feeling to need to get more. If that makes sense. Like, I don't like the greed aspect of doing stuff.
But even Neil brings up your body won't let you feel rich enough.
That's the part.
Because he
Even-
said he's got a ton, but you never feel rich
even
enough.
on his podcast, Bert,
Kreischer?
yes,
Bert
Bert
Kreischer?
yes, had him on the podcast. No, it wasn't him. It was the Italian guy.
Tom Segura,
No. Well,
I'm
he was the
scared.
first one. Sebastian Montanaro?
The
Meniscalo.
third one. It's the,
The
third
third one?
episode. Anywho, he was talking to him, but it was that same conversation, right? Because like when you grow up middle class, and like he was like, I would go to games and be like in the nosebleed seats, but now I have access. So, when I take my kids to a game, like how do I keep them humble? How do I keep them in a space where they can really appreciate it? Because to them, this is what the seats are at the game.
Yeah, I heard
To
that
me,
one,
I
yeah.
know the seats. I was just happy to fucking be there.
Yeah.
So the bars, the bar changes over time.
I feel like,
Yeah, him. Yes.
You
That's
How do you
him.
say it?
I'm scared.
let me see.
Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, they kind of touched on that because that was his thing. That was one of his blocks, feeling like, okay, when are you rich enough? Like, when have you, you're so used to not having that you're like, when do you stop hoarding money? Like,
But I relate to what you're saying, though, because I don't ever feel the need to shit on someone who doesn't have what I have. Because
Same.
quite honestly, I tell myself all the time, I tell my kids this too, we are rich. To somebody, we're rich. Like, because when I was growing up, I would be around people who I consider rich, and they didn't consider themselves rich.
Yeah.
Like, there's this whole thing.
subjective.
I remember reading a book about, like, super rich New Yorkers, and they were, like, depressed. They weren't billionaires. Like, they was like, I only have $300 million. It's like,
it's a baby bee.
it's like, wait, what? It's like I only have one yacht.
I understand that because I don't consider myself famous, but I've met people who think I'm famous,
Right.
and I always tell them, "You're not famous until other famous people tell
Know who
you."
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like so.
And I mean, and even then, like, what does that mean?
Because then there's
in
still
real
levels
life,
of fame.
too?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Like, what does that actually
I don't
mean?
think I ever want to get to the point where I can't go anywhere by myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just be a part of whatever crowd I'm in.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like the higher you climb, the more isolated you become. And once you get to a certain level of isolation, the perks start to weigh on your morality because it's accepted, because it's part of the perks.
Oh, wow.
Like I've seen it happen where
So give me an example then.
like you get to the point where I don't want to wait in line. Like, how can you ever get so important that you feel like you can't wait in a line?
Drake just talked about this. Did y'all see that? He posted something about he's like basically making the point that I don't care what venue it is, there's a private clean ass bathroom everywhere you go that you just don't know about, basically because I don't think he was trying to say like you're too poor and stupid and you don't get access, but that's how I took it. I'm just like, why are you, I mean I know that, but why are you saying this? Like, we know, like we're all standing in line for this disgusting a public bathroom, but you have access. So I don't know if that's just him being out of touch to regular people.
He's been rich a long time.
You know what I'm saying? But like to your point, like you have access to stuff that like the average person doesn't. And
well, it's not even necessarily the access. I think to me it's the entitlement of the access. That's what bothers me, is that you get to a certain level
you believe
and the perks have been happening for so long that you forget that
they're even perks.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, yo, don't forget you bleed.
Yeah.
You know, don't forget you're just like everybody else. Like no matter how high up in the world.
Though? How do you, because don't you feel like our society in particular makes like celebrities into superhumans or to gods or like demigods or something? Because it does get very like
that. See, I wish I could answer that question, but just the way that I was raised, I'm always mindful of how I treat people. Like if these people support you, and they spend their hard-earned money and they take time out of their day to support what it is that you do, as a regular moral person, you have an obligation to respect that. And I feel like the higher you climb, the easier it is to accept the disrespect of people who you don't see on the regular. Like, you look at what the Republicans are trying to do now with the taxing 30%. It's like you have more than enough to make it to tomorrow and the day after that and the month after that. At some point, there's an amount of money that you can't spend. So you don't literally need to do anything else for the rest of your life, and you will never run out of money. And your kids will never run out of money. And their grandkids will never run out of money, because at a certain point money starts to make itself,
of course,
right? And so once you reach that level, I don't understand how you forget what it took to get there, the people that helped you get there, other than the fact that there's these perks that you get that you become accustomed to, that this circle of entitlement. I've never had that entitlement. I've never felt like I have to have that. Like, I deserve this, and how dare you not give it to me?
Well, you brought it up with the word entitlement, because really you see that a lot of times because you said it with like having the generational wealth. If it's the next generation, they didn't see what it took to get it.
Right.
Like, that's usually what ends up happening.
To that point of that conversation he was having, like, I'm still trying to instill that into my kids, because they're never going to have to go as hard to have what we have now. Like, to them, this is ground zero.
It's regular.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like,
we see that with our kids. Oh my God, Deon, are you having kids?
Not unless I'm filthy rich.
And what is, okay, describe to us filthy rich.
Where I don't have to worry about how much something costs.
Money's a number.
We're trying to be very specific and intentional. What's the number? What's your number?
Like, if I had $100 million, like,
100 mil.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to hit 100 mil and then kids.
200 mil so you can actually get the 100 mil.
Yeah.
They're gonna tax that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So like 500 million is not enough for a kid.
Oh, that's
No,
plenty.
that's more than
That's more than
Or
that.
not 500, sorry.
Fi- 50
I'm a
million,
little
it's
in.
okay.
That's what I meant to say.
No, 50 million is enough for a kid.
Okay, so 50 million, you feel rich?
If I had enough money to not worry about money, I would have a kid.
Cool.
Okay.
The only reason I say that is because I don't ever want to have to tell my child no.
Oh.
I will tell my child no,
Yeah.
but not because I have
Just
to.
for that feeling
Yes,
of
because
not-
I remember what it's like having to have to be told, I want to do this, but I just literally can't. And that's the worst feeling that you could ever give a kid, is because you crush the hope in them. Like, there was a lot of times.
You seem pretty
You out here
hopeful.
getting it
Well,
still. I think there's some value in that too, because that's a point I've tried to make to other people too. I get your point. Obviously, we want to be able to give our kids, you know, especially everything we didn't have, opportunities and all. But I also feel like, you know, kind of like what the point I was trying to make about we talked off camera about this before. If you are engaged with somebody who you're trying to give them something that maybe they don't value at the same level, and that feels bad, you learn something from that's super valuable though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know that what you have is valuable, so you're gonna maybe be more discerning about who you give that to, because not everybody deserves that. So I think it sort of instills in people, I don't know, because like we're talking about people who are entitled. Like, do you meet people who are super rich sometimes, or like people who have access? And like you're saying, it's like, how do you become this disillusioned and this like this ain't shit? Yeah,
Oh my
you know what I
God,
mean?
and you
Like,
just can
sometimes
afford
the
better
adversity-
drugs for the pain.
The adversity sometimes builds. There's some value in it. I'm sure if you ask Miss Pat that, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's somebody who I feel like doesn't want to be disillusioned by her position. You know what I'm saying? Like, she seems pretty intentional about still staying grounded in who she is as a person, and not letting I know such and such be the thing that defines her. Like, you can't let those things define you. So like, yeah, you hear no, but when you get it, you appreciate it so much better. Like, sometimes that's where that appreciation comes in.
Because like, it doesn't feel great telling your kids no, but they do need to know, like, hey, it's the reason why I'm available to you right now is because I'm not working like the way that I would have to work to be able to afford that. And we do get to do things sometimes, but like, let's say like last year she wanted to go to Mexico. We're not going to Mexico this year. Like, we did a international trip the year before. Like, that might not be an every year thing, but it's still more than I had. Like, by the time, like, I just want to incrementally improve every generation. But because I grew up with people who had generational wealth, they didn't seem like happier or better off, if that makes sense.
Right. It's a selfish reason for me.
Oh, okay, that's cool. We love selfishness at the Fake Ass Book Club.
It's one of those things where it's my own personal belief, and I'm not trying to say you shouldn't have kids if you can't.
Deon, and
no,
we feel it.
No, not at all.
I'm just saying, like,
Not at
because
all.
I remember wanting books from the book fair, but I have two older brothers. You know, so it's like,
Gotta share your shit with these dudes.
I can't get the books I want, because then they would have to get the books that they want, and then
It's all or
this
nothing in
whole
this thing.
Yeah, we
money
have
starts to
multiples,
Trust me, my
yeah.
mama
So it's
very
one of those
much-
things where
And
can't
see,
do it
I
for
will say
all.
I spaced I planned on just having one for that very reason, because I was the only child, so I had a lot of resources, and so you know, but mine were spaced apart. So yeah, because I remember them books, because they always hit you up for something. That is true.
Yeah,
like
man.
every
That is true. And it does feel bad.
it's one of those things, you know. I talked to my dad. I'm like, I get why you didn't want to spend $3 on a plastic ruler, bro. I get it. You know what I mean?
like when you're like you flip. I remember my uncle flipped out one time because they asked him to bring some socks. Like, we had to pay for some socks for something, and that just sent him over the edge. It was like, but it's like, what? It's always something with you people. Like, really, like when does it? It never ends.
Well, I think the thing that I notice about having kids too, though, like, as much as we want to do all these things for them, the thing that they really want. So I think for me, the wanting the money would just be freeing up my time, because it's not, because I'm still gonna have to find ways to say no if I have access to everything, because
Right.
I don't want you to be an asshole and entitled
Exactly.
prick or whatever. But it's just too, I think a lot of times when we're worried about building this wealth and trying to create this environment for our kids, you know, they lose access to you. You know what I mean? Like, you're busy grinding all the time. Like, I was telling Kat, like, last week, I literally took a day off. I took Martin Luther King day off, because Black History. You know what I'm saying? No, but part of it was I hadn't, like, my weekend was so busy, Deon. I felt so guilty because I didn't get to be in front of my kids, and they're like, I miss you. Your kids really just want you.
Yeah.
They really just want access to you, and that doesn't really cost me anything but my time. And so, like, that's the thing that I wish that I had more of, is really just the time. Because I mean, even if I'm just sitting playing dolls with my daughter, or letting her pick a show she wants to watch, and we can just pop, you know, we're
it
just
was
sitting there.
always hurtful when you'd be in the cafeteria and one of the kids' parents would come in and have lunch with them, and then your parents could never do that.
Never the one.
It's like, because
I did
they
that with my
had to
son
work
all the time.
and it's like
at least
That
once a
don't-
week.
Yo.
in elementary school, I used to I remember.
Is this a little special table too and everything?
Yeah, they were
Yep.
up, like everybody was down here,
And I'd
then
sneak
they had
in like fast food too, because you couldn't bring
Yeah.
fast food, but I sneak
Got
it
that
in the
Whopper.
Tupperware thing or
was
whatever.
it's a
Yup.
half circle of elevated seats, and you're sitting with your parents eating way better than everybody
Yep.
else. And I just
And
remember,
you can bring one friend.
Yeah,
He could bring
one
friend.
through 5. I remember my parents. My mom came once. I don't think my dad ever came, and my grandmother came a couple times.
Oh,
And it was one of those things where it was just like, I wanted that so badly because
But see, I never got that because both of my parents had to work because I was in private school, so my parents were working their ass
That
off
part.
to pay tuition. But I made sure to do that for my son because I remember that feeling too.
Yeah.
Like I remember like wanting to do that for him. But to bring it back to Neil, do you think people distrust you because you don't have kids and you're a man of a certain age? Because he said he's like 48, never been married, no kids.
That was funny.
People don't like it.
People don't like it.
I don't roll in the same circles as he does,
Okay.
so I don't have to deal with that
Gotcha.
pressure. But every time someone asks me, why am I single and why do I don't have kids? And I go, because I like my life the way it is. I'm a selfish person and I don't want to add somebody to my life where I have to secure them. Like I'm still struggling to secure me. And the last thing I want to do is add someone else's feelings to my security. Like I think that's the biggest misconception is people always say there's somebody for everybody. I'm like, no, there's not. Do the
Thank
math.
you. Say that again.
There's
do the math
not,
right.
There's not enough.
There's not enough to go around.
Your person might got peed on by R. Kelly. Like
Yep.
you don't want that person
They've
anymore.
already been ruined.
You know what I mean? So
No.
it's like,
I don't want that person. They're
Their
like, you got
showers. They're
pee.
fine now.
they wash off.
They wash.
no, I don't want to be with that person, or
There's lots
you
of
got to
reasons.
share or
There's lots of
whatever.
reasons, yeah.
My whole thing is like, don't force your idea of happiness on someone who's happy with the way that they live their life. Pat is a big proponent of me getting a girl. You need a girl. You need a girl. I'm like, no, I don't. The bitch is just gonna get her feelings hurt. Like, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna do me over everybody else. Like, it's,
Well, I love Bill Burr talking about
I
that
love
when
it.
he was grinding out before he, settled down and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Because he was like, no one sees the grind, like the not being able to
It's
have
ugly.
not being able to
Mm-hmm.
date,
Wearing the
sleeping
same
on food
outfit to the
Yeah.
interviews. I love Bill Burr. He is
Yeah, he's
wildly
very
honest.
real.
very
the
Oh,
softest hands I've ever shook in my entire life.
Straight up.
Disgustingly soft.
Right.
Like, I was like, bro,
You ain't
Bruh.
did
you
all
should have
your
warned
life.
me before you let me touch your
He probably
hand.
doesn't have any UV damage.
It
like
was-
he probably
Stays out that sun.
It
stays
was
out the
magically soft. Like,
Wow.
man.
Whatever, he's probably using whatever products his black wife
Yeah.
using.
Ain't
We
that
use some
shea
very
butter?
softening
I'm
stuff.
It was-
yeah.
shea butter.
Yeah.
for
It's
sure.
pretty
You
great.
ever meet somebody that you really admire, and you're like, oh, because that's
You're
like
like,
I
oh, this
jerked
is
my
my
hand back, like because I was like, I'm sorry.
Like
but
it was a
I was like,
vampire?
bro, your hands are soft as shit. He was like, I get that a lot. I'm like, you need to warn a nigga, bro. Like
You
that is
maybe take
weird.
like an emery board and just rough them up a little bit.
I don't have rough hands because I'm not a manual laborer, but
Okay.
this man, he had like very
Well, now I'm jealous.
feminine,
Oh, no.
soft
How do I?
hands.
It's like, what's
I
your
have-
secret,
my
Bill?
hands are not soft,
Yeah.
for the record.
want
My
those.
husband's were softer than mine for a long time. I'm like, how is this?
So, because I know which one of Neil's blocks I feel like I related to the most. Like,
Yeah, let's talk blocks. Let's get into
Yeah,
it.
like what your blocks
go ahead.
were.
What's your block?
So
Since
it was, you could
started.
probably tell from what my dedication was, but like not being like religiously affiliated, like especially in Indiana, like because everybody wants to know, it's like, what church do you go to? And it's like, yeah,
Where do you
I'm cool
worship?
off that. And it's like, so you want to go to hell? It's like,
like, I
this
mean-
conversation is hell to me right now.
Yeah.
So,
I'm because I grew up super religious, and I'm just like,
Same.
I'm so
Not feeling
over
I've
it.
had
Hard.
enough church for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'm like, God, don't even come here. Like,
Have you seen
I've
this
never
place?
seen this nigga here.
So I
Okay.
feel like that's one of my blocks
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay. Well, so do you feel like it gets in the way of something? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
What is it blocking?
I feel like, well, career-wise, I feel like I'd have a better career if I were able to play ball.
Yo, for real.
Ooh, I love that you said play ball because I'm one of those
For
people where
sure.
like,
I'm
once I figure out there's a game here, I'm like, yeah, I don't
wanna
want to do
be
that.
Right.
That's so hard, though.
Yeah,
it
is.
You know what? I think it's super hard. I think just to yes and yours.
Thank you.
I also feel that that sense of not fitting into this, specific box for people, especially when it comes to career stuff. Like I know that like I will forego opportunities because again, it's not like I want, like, I know what this is and I don't want to do that. Like, it takes too much energy. And I honestly don't care about this. And none of these conversations are really for what y'all say y'all are here doing. And I know that. And I'm going to be like, excuse me. So then I just get to be the asshole. You know what I mean? Say continuously.
Oh, I think I actually one of the quotes from Deon here.
Do it.
Where he says,
hard.
"You see, I think myself into asshole positions." Like,
100%.
yeah,
It's like I feel him so much.
Me
I
too.
feel him so much.
Where it's just like, damn it.
Like, I guess
But
I'm
I'm here now.
Yeah.
So that's hard, like when you're on the cusp of, like, you know, you're in the room, but then it's like you're also sort of like other. And
I did that to get that internship, though. I played
because
ball,
that's
but
the thing,
there
you
was a
have
limited
to-
amount of time.
You
I
do
knew
have to
and I almost
sometimes.
didn't make it.
Almost didn't make
it.
Yeah,
There were some
man.
times I wanted to be very real, but once again, bringing up comedians, keeping it real
Real
can go
real,
very
very
wrong.
wrong.
When it goes wrong.
I don't like people playing on my phone.
I'll be like, ooh.
I didn't eat popcorn for a month afterwards.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
so that's definitely one of my blocks.
I respect it. What about you, Deon? What would you say?
I guess mine is financial. I'm not moved by money. I don't do things just for the.
You don't have the soul of a harlot.
No, I like. I really don't. Like, I do stand up. Excuse me. I do stand up because I like making people laugh.
Okay.
Like, I could be a much higher level comic if I actually did the business side of it. But once I experienced it for the first time, I was like, ugh, I hate this. Now, I could let somebody else do it for me, but
Okay.
my whole thing is I don't ever want to be one of those people who's just doing it for the
Do
money.
you feel like that's the road to like the drugs?
No, I just think it's a personal feeling of disgust. Like, I get disgusted by business because it's
the
shady.
worst. It's
You know what I
so
mean?
bad,
And like,
but it's
But I
so
mean, I think there is a link to the
normalized.
drugs though, because you get disgusted with yourself. People like do hardcore drugs a lot of times to escape themselves.
I've never had that desire to not be myself.
That's
Like,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everything you're saying though is in accordance with that. Like the fact that you're
Yes.
not even going down that path because I'm like, I can't even stand to feel that way.
Yeah, it's. I'm one of those people where if I'm like, nope, I don't like that, I'm not doing it. Period. There's no, you're not going to
That's
talk me
So if you were a
into it.
girl, we could never get you to be a stripper.
No,
Not if-
absolutely.
not
Are you
unless you
kidding
didn't
me?
want to be,
Are you
right?
kidding me? I would if I had it. Trust me. Yes, because like, you don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? You're just getting naked. You do that every day. You might as well get paid for it. That's why I'm a huge proponent of girls on OnlyFans. If you're
Go
just
for it.
showing your titties or your booty,
And somebody's gonna
and somebody
pay
gonna
you
give you
for that.
$40 for it, make that money.
That's
Well,
And then
no,
they-
I'm not against it. I'm just saying for you, like you're saying you as a woman would be okay being sexual in front of a man you don't find attractive for money.
for some women. That's hard. Like what
Like
you're
in
saying.
person, not on OnlyFans, but like I said a stripper specifically. Like
Yeah,
in
I wouldn't have a
person.
problem with it. And
Well, no problem?
if my daughter wanted to be a stripper, I would support her
Okay,
because I'm
you're
one of the.
surprising me, Deon. I'm trying
Here's-
to get it. I'm
it's-
trying to
it's
nail you
weird.
down, and I can't.
It's weird, right? There's the flip for it. Like me personally, I want to be true to myself at all times, and I feel like every time I get into a business situation, I have to lie about something, and so I don't like that, and so it's like I don't want to do that.
So do you need an agent?
Probably.
Yeah.
But it's not even that, to be honest with you. Like, I'm just not motivated by money. Like, you could say, I'm going to pay you $5 million, but if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, I just don't want to. Because it doesn't move me one way or the other. And then I know I just told you guys that I want to be rich enough to where I don't tell my kids
Let's
no.
talk about this because this kind of goes into my block, right?
Let's hear it.
First of all, there's so many of them
Yeah.
that I'm just like, which one do I pick? So I want to pick indecisiveness just because I'm the worst, and so I get in my own way. But also just the fact that I'm a walking contradiction about every fucking thing that exists inside my life. So to your point, you're like, I want to have financial security, but I also don't want to feel like I have to leave. I'm having an out of body experience
Right.
to be
Yeah.
involved in business because it feels so terrible. And it's like, how do you find the balance in that? So that goes back to kind of like the indecisiveness of like you get these opportunities or whatever it is, and you're having to weigh these things. And I'm like, it's paralysis. Like it's literal. Like, okay, I'm just gonna.
I chase the opportunities that make me feel good about my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I could charge more for my t-shirts, but I don't. You know, because I make enough to be comfortable.
Okay.
And that's what's the most important thing to me in my life is my comfort level. It's like I like who I am as a person. I like what I bring to the table in a relationship. I like the life that I live. And so I don't have this existential pressure to reach the next level of the ladder. Like, I'm good. I've always been that type of person. Like, once I get mine, I'm not taking anything else because I don't want anything else. Because I've always seen every time you get more than you need, you turn into an asshole. And the last thing I want to be is an asshole because I can't stand assholes. It's like,
Assholes are kind of, I mean, you know.
and then people always say, well, you could bless the next person. I'm like, I could, or I could let them go get it themselves the way I did.
But so then does that make you, I mean, I'm just asking objectively, does that make you an asshole? Because, I mean, you know, the argument could be made that, like, you know, when you have so much and you don't use that opportunity to, like, you know, help or to, you know.
A gift is simply that.
Okay. So, yeah, that's what I mean.
So
like,
it doesn't exist unless you give it away.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm not giving it to you, it don't exist.
It's like the opportunity's not there. And so, I mean, I feel you because nobody should be expecting that anyway. But I'm just
Exactly.
saying from a what's the word? You just want to do good things. just
Altruism?
because. Yes.
Altruistic?
I knew that one. I just heard that earlier this week and thought about that and couldn't come up with it. Yeah, just from that standpoint. I don't even think I could say the word altruist.
Altruistic.
I had to,
Altruistic.
like, I actually Googled it and made it say it a bunch of times because my mouth doesn't want to say the word. I don't know why.
You can't even get down with altruism.
Altruistic.
I'm not with
Yeah, I
it.
gotta list.
No, but I can see how that would be a block.
At some point, even altruism comes at, are you doing it because you really want to do it, or are you
That
doing it
part.
because you think they need it?
That
And
was
if-
an episode of Friends.
Yeah, and it's like, if I can't,
Right. It needs to be
Phoebe was
genuine
trying
no
to-
matter what.
yeah.
though.
Right,
Like whatever
like-
you're involved in should certainly be like.
But we
'cause I
said
wanna
before,
do
like,
it.
I think selfishness, you don't
There's
live
nothing
your
wrong with
life
it.
completely selfless. Like, that's not
everything
good.
you do is selfish
Yeah,
because
sure.
that is survival.
Yeah.
Like
I'm selfish till I die.
yeah, you have to be. And I understand that, but what for me, my selfishness comes from a place of, I'm not going to get in your way.
Okay.
So whatever it is that you want to do, as long as it's not hurting me, I genuinely don't care.
right, like I'm not blocking
Yeah.
you from.
But the second it gets in the way of my very small boundary, you're catching war. You know what I mean? Like, don't come on my castle. My castle's not going to be the biggest castle, but if you come over here, I'm going to fuck you
Get
up.
knocked
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Don't be
I
taken
don't play
away.
that.
Be
Yeah.
adding to it at least. You know what I'm saying? I could feel that. So what do you think about? So I think about the way Neil's stand up is, and it's of course not like slapstick. It's very, you know, he's into the sketch comedy. He's into satire.
He's like Gerard.
Very
He's a
much
brilliant
so.
writer,
Yeah.
Very much so. And so, like, when we get into, like, these stories and stuff, because even you brought up Gerard, like, you know, his last special, you know, he came out and he was talking a lot about family secrets, and it was, like, deeply personal. I felt like this was deeply personal.
Yeah, these super sad stand-up specials
super
that are still
sad.
hilarious.
Let me, like, does that, so I got the feedback, like, we were talking about the Gerard special, so this isn't specific to blocks, but because to me it's kind of in the same vein as far as it just being deeply personal. I mean, is that comedy to you? Like, when you see that stand-up set and you see Gerard up there and you see the whole, like, does that strike you as comedy? Like,
no.
what do you?
Watching his special, it was more of a storytelling event than
Like a one-man
than a
show?
comedy show, because if you go and count the laughs per minute per joke, it's
Okay.
not there. He wasn't trying to be funny. He was just giving you information, and then he would layer a joke on top of that.
Right.
So it wasn't. I don't want to say it wasn't a comedy show, because there were comedic elements to it, but I feel like the overarching point of what he was doing on stage was just explaining what he was going through. And then he layered a couple of jokes on top of that. Where as opposed to an actual comedy show, your job is to go up there and just get as many laughs per minute as you can. I don't think he was trying to do that. I don't think he cared about laughs per minute. I think he cared about telling his story in a way that his fans would understand him better.
Okay. So what do you think about that? I guess that's my point. Like, what do you think about?
I don't like
to
calling it a
use that?
special, but at the same
Okay,
time, I
okay.
understand if, you know, we are so flawed as people, comics. Like, it takes a weird individual to get up in front of a group of strangers and tell them the most fucked up parts of your life and your thought process. And the need to do that is so strong in good comics, you know, because there's a lot of bad comics who just don't understand that this isn't the medium for what you're trying to do. But like, when you're good at this, there's this desire to see people understand you. And I think he did a brilliant job of getting people to understand him. I just don't think it was the traditional. And I don't have a problem with that. Don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with him not doing it the traditional way. Yeah. Just me personally, I watched it thinking, I don't think I wouldn't have called it that. But
okay, so that's fair. Because I mean, I guess to me, you know, I'm not a comic, so I don't know. But when I heard that feedback, I was like, I mean, I guess I can see that point. I guess when I was taking it in, I was taking it in from the standpoint of what you're saying. Like, anytime somebody's engaging me in a story, I guess, forget that you were here to make me laugh. I laughed a little, but I was entertained.
Right.
So that's, at the end of the day, that's kind of what I'm looking for. But also, if you turn on that special thinking you're about to get laughs per minute, yeah, you probably didn't get that. So maybe you're disappointed.
And I think it's more comparable to his 3 mic special.
Yeah.
Where he even set that one up where part of it was going to be one-liners, part of it was going to be stand-up, and part of it was going to be storytelling. And I feel like this one, he just mixed it all together instead of, you know, actually sectioning it off. And then the blocks were supposed to be the visual representation, the props. It was a little bit of prop comedy, which to me is surprising because Neil doesn't seem like a prop comic.
Yeah.
That is a very small contingent of people who still do that style of comedy. And it takes a lot of work to be good at it. So it's just like, you know, if you don't start early, it's already a hard road to get. You know, I've been doing this 18 years and people still don't know who I am. But like, it takes so much effort into creating just even getting the opportunity to get on stage with props. Like, it's a dying art.
I can see that. I really enjoyed it special. I like the personal aspect. Look, so we took it into the 3 mics. I think that is really that's a good sort of way to think about it, because I mean, comedy a lot of the time comes from tragedy, right? Like, it's the same thing, just the opposite side of the coin. And a lot of the times, like, when you're in it, like, obviously it's not funny, but it's sometimes that space and time between the event that you can find the humor in it. Like you said, that's the medicine, right? Like, that's the thing that makes you cope and can move on. So I like the storytelling aspect always feels like what brings you in, right? Like, that's the part that's deeply human. That's the part that people can relate to. And then when you can do that about something super sad, because I mean, if you just said like, okay, so you have this almost 50-year-old man who's not married, doesn't have kids, he's a little neurotic, probably a little self-loathing, and he's up here talking about all the shit that gets in his way about having a happy life. That shit don't sound funny. So that don't sound funny when you're just saying it.
If you lay it out.
If you just lay it out. But
he's also wealthier than most people.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And
you should feel so bad for him.
You should feel really bad. But that's the point. Like, he can get up there and be 100% who he is and make you laugh.
Yeah, and you still relate to him. Like, and even though he is all those things, I still see a lot of me reflected in him, just our shared humanity.
Absolutely. So I think that's the part, that connection part, I think is important to build when you're a comedian, because, you know, even, I mean, not to keep bringing up Miss Pat, but like, we read her book, it was super good. I think, you know, knowing her background, like, when you really get to know like somebody's story, that gives you the buy-in, right? Like, that the narrative is always the part that kind of gets you there. Even when I think about like Richard Pryor and stuff, like, he always talked about how deeply flawed he was by his drug abuse and stuff, and like freebasing,
growing up in a brothel.
He
was like, my mom was a literal prostitute.
Not funny in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not funny. But
the beauty of comedy is the truth that is revealed through laughter. You know what I mean? Like, 100%. So we make you think about things that you see all the time, but you don't recognize. And so then
because we're processing so much.
Right. Yeah. So you get the flip of it, and then you can find a way to laugh at it, right? Like, Pat always says, if you can laugh at your pain, you have control of it. You know, and that's what she did in order to overcome all the trauma that she had as a child. Laughter is the best medicine for your soul. Like you never feel bad when you're laughing. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where if you can achieve that as much as possible, the limit of your joy is endless. And so I just, that has always been my goal in my professional careers. I want to deliver the most amount of laughter that I can give based on how I see the world.
Yeah.
Right? You're not always going to find what I say funny. Sometimes people are like, they come up to me after the show and, hey, I didn't really like that joke. And I go, well, the next one after that, what about that one? You know?
Well, let's talk about one of your other podcasts, which is Sorry We're Canceled.
Yes.
Is that canceled? Where y'all at?
So we...
Shout out to BT.
Yeah, shout out BT. Our producer and co-creator Wyatt quit on us after an episode. He just up and quit. He goes, I don't want to do this anymore if you guys are going to talk politics. And I go, we literally talk politics for like 2 minutes at the end of an episode. Like, he's like, well, if you talk politics, I don't want to be a part of this because it doesn't work in podcasting. And I go, all right, thanks for letting us know that you don't want to do it. I'm not. Whoa. This is our show. We're going to talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about. And if you don't like that, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And so that happened back in...
I would have never thought he was anti-free speech. It's weird.
It was just one of those things where he thought, because this is a quote from him, he goes, I listen to 15 other podcasts and none of them talk about politics. I go...
He's young.
And that's what I attributed to. I go, we're not doing this for the reason you think we're doing this.
Right.
You know what I
But
mean?
this is a real
It's not to make you personally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's
You're centering yourself in our conversation.
It wasn't even that. It was like, no one's here for you. They're here for us. If you don't want to be a part of it, that's fine. I have no problem with you saying, this is my line, you cross it, we're done. I have no problem with that. My whole idea is your line has nothing to do with our line. And so you can't tell me what I can and can't talk about. Just say you didn't want to be a part of the show. Right. If you'd express
you
that,
didn't even have to be on the show to produce it.
I was like, I don't need
you. You need to come on over to Death Row. If you don't want the producers all in the podcast, all in the videos. It's like coming over to fake ass book club.
It was one of those things where I was
we let
like,
you say what you want. Because to me, that's what is nice about podcasts. You get to. You don't even have to be right. Like, I'm just talking. I'm just some person. Like, we're never like, oh, Deon Curry, political expert. Like, no, you're just talking. Like, it was an enjoyable show. I miss it.
It's coming back.
Okay,
It is coming back.
It
took us a long time to get him separated from it because we had signed contracts in the beginning. And so it was like one of these things where we had
letting
to
the time run out.
basically had to do legal stuff to get it separated, and that's finally done. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll get back to doing that podcast. But the name of the show is Sorry We're Canceled. So it's like we're going to talk about things that are going to get us canceled.
Right.
That was literally the concept that we came with. It's not a feel good, we're going to say whatever you want to. This isn't the Today Show. No, it's literally...
Even though we're facing the street, it's not the Today Show.
It's me and BT just talking shit about whatever's going on in our lives or
because y'all didn't even agree. That'd be the best part.
Right, I know. That was always so good.
And you have another podcast. Why can't you stop podcasting?
Because I always wanted my own radio show when I was a kid.
Really? There you go.
Yeah, I used to record myself pretending to interview famous people.
Oh, that's really
I would do
are those cassettes gone now?
Yeah. Roaches got them.
You hate to see it.
But yeah, I've always just wanted to do my own radio show, and so podcasting is the closest thing I could do to doing that. And so now that's debatable, which is just a Facebook Live show that I'm gonna have you guys come on as guests.
Oh, you definitely want me on that show.
Oh, you definitely want Kat on there. I mean,
she don't. She be like, you think what's wrong.
We're looking to have some guests in the coming weeks, but we do it every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Me, Sydney Smith, and Warren B. Hall. So.
Okay.
And so tell me a little bit about that show because I don't think I've seen it.
Because is it on YouTube? Because that was
it's
the thing.
a
I don't
YouTube
have.
show.
Is it
it's Facebook. It's Facebook Live.
See, I don't have
but
Facebook.
Yes, we do. We have it.
I don't have Facebook.
We can get on there together. We can get together.
The point of doing it on Facebook is so that we can have live interaction.
Sure.
Because we have a community of listeners who, the whole point of the show is to debate whatever it is that we're going to debate. Like the show Monday night is going to be top 5 favorite movie quotes and why. You know,
see, I'll be terrible for that. I don't remember.
She can't remember.
Like I'd have to look it up and be like,
I know it was you, Fredo.
See, yeah, she probably has them like on deck. She probably
See,
already
I
knows
love
them.
that.
She probably already has them in numeric order. I'm like, I'd have to
Right.
like really
Yeah.
think about it.
and so that's
And
what,
I'd be happy to tell people why they're wrong.
exactly
favorite.
that's the beauty of the show is that Sydney was a lifelong Republican until the Trump situation, but he's black and he's from Detroit, and it's like those things don't go together, right?
no, they sure
and
don't.
so, and I'm a super liberal, socialist type dude where I was like, yeah, put it all in the pot and take what you need, and
then everybody.
right, you know what I mean? So there's that dynamic, and then Warren is kind of the middle ground between us, but he's the oldest of the group, and he's kind of like he's got kids, where Sydney and I don't have kids, and so he gives it that parental aspect of it, and so those 3 pieces, and then we just debate stuff, whether it's police brutality or top 5 movie quotes or whatever.
Sure.
So
it's a range. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Well, I'm sure Kat would love to be on
I
here.
would-
I mean,
I
I'll
mean-
go too. I like the laughs.
Yeah, she'll just be there to kick back and eat
I'll be like,
popcorn.
y'all are going hard. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just happy to
I
be out
can't
the
care
house.
Well,
like
see
that.
we'll tailor the episode to what you guys want to debate.
Yeah,
And
but I can
She
figure
doesn't
it out,
like
though.
debating for real.
You know what's crazy? I was on the debate team, and I'm actually pretty good at it. But I
I
guess
know.
I like to. You know why though? Because I like to stay open to hearing it. I'm truly interested in hearing other
people's point of view,
views,
right.
like genuinely. And I'm not always saying my opinion to change your mind.
Right.
Like I'm cool that we have
yeah.
different point of views.
I'm definitely one of
so-
those people who just wants to understand where you're
Yeah,
coming
like
from.
I like
Because I can
hearing
respect.
why. Yeah.
I don't have to deal with you, but I can respect it. Like if I
Yeah,
get it,
I'm like,
if I can
okay.
say I understand
you drew
why
the
you're doing
line
that.
for me,
yeah.
and I see you. I still
Yeah.
don't think I don't
Yeah.
feel.
I'm not
that
gonna
way.
fuck with you, but yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're over here.
I'll be like, I don't respect that.
yeah. Now she's like, no, fuck you forever, hate you.
I'll be like, I know your kind.
Yeah. So
And I don't have a problem with that either. Don't get me wrong. Like I genuinely respect that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's all good. No, I love a spirited debate. Like to me, that's like that's the fun. Like, what's the
well,
point
it's not
of
always fun. It's the people though. So I think I
Yeah.
trust that. I just feel like sometimes you get into conversations where people. It's the same thing about like we talk about this. She wants to have a spades tournament. And I'm like, who are these
trying
people?
to get people
That's
stabbed.
thank you. That's instantly goes to stabbings to me. I'm like, man, I've just seen this.
That
shit
is
get
a
too
lack of
animated.
imagination.
Well, guess
Because
what?
not everything has to turn into trauma.
I don't think
And
it does.
I
Other
think,
people clearly do. Though.
quite honestly, I want to have a spades tournament.
spades and trauma go together. Big joker, little joker stabbing.
You
Like,
sounds like me when I was talking to my ex because he didn't want us to do like Halloween with the kids because all his Halloween's experiences were trauma. And for me, I loved Halloween. It was a autumn festival where you got to do cosplay and got free candy. And he was like, no, it was just a night of violence.
yeah, people snatching your
He
bags.
burned
and-
houses
So
down.
I think it just depends on your experience. I have a lot of really happy
Spades is
I
spades
love
memories.
spades. Don't get me wrong,
Spades
but
itself is fine.
I'm always one of those people who's like, if I know
Who is
what
it?
the negative outcome can be and how often that happens, is the joy
So,
really worth
can
it?
I give you my vision? Like I wasn't like I
me-
wasn't gonna
give
hold
me
up a
the
sign in the
vision.
middle of the street like
kinda
spades here,
were.
come and get your spade. No, like we would be people we know, like other podcasters. Like I would like to have a tournament like where and then that podcast wins. And I think it would be us. Like
There's a lot of white podcasters that are like, I thought we were playing euchre.
Euchre.
I actually love euchre.
Do
I will
you?
play euchre.
I don't even know how.
We're
heard of
inclusive
it.
at the
Euchre
Fake Ass
is
Book Club.
boring.
Euchre, I'll be in the barn. I'll do all that.
I'm not gonna be in the barn. Fuck that.
in the
No, I'm
barn.
not going there.
Yes, I'll
man.
play all of those games. For me, cards is fun.
What about dominoes? Fun.
Love dominoes. Dominoes are cool.
Uno's fun. Tonka's fun.
Uno's boring.
You're
I'm
a
sorry,
lie.
you're a lie.
Draw four. See,
How?
have you played speed?
You're the only person I've ever heard say Uno is boring.
Thank you. It's
I would
not.
rather
It's
play
hilarious.
spades.
I like Old Maid even.
It takes too long. Like I want.
How many cards are you drawing?
You.
Let's move on. I feel personally attacked.
You should.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying you
He's
can't
not,
like
but I
Uno.
am.
I'm saying
I personally, just how y'all feel like spades is gonna devolve into like madness. I feel like Uno just goes on a little too long for me to be comfortable. I've played speed. I like speed.
how many cards are you drawing?
No, like
when
if
you
you're
start the
playing-
game of Uno,
She
No,
loses.
That's
first
a
off,
problem.
it doesn't take as much strategy. I just prefer if I'm gonna sit down to a card table and play
she
cards.
still hasn't
It's
answered
the
the question.
I don't know. I don't know how many cards.
Do you
there
start
is.
with 5? Do you start with 7?
7, 9.
I don't even care. Like I don't know. Like to me, however.
Because
many
Uno
goes
is
on too
supposed to
long.
be a fast game.
You would think. To me, they go on too long. I'd rather.
It's not Monopoly.
Monopoly definitely.
That
goes
takes a
on too
long time. These are just my opinions, and they do not reflect the views of the Fake Ass Book Club.
Can't, they can't.
It's just me.
Fair enough.
I just,
Fair
but I
enough.
don't want to play with a bunch of randos. I don't want to get into like, some crazy situation. But like, yeah, if we had an event where like just the people we've had
Even just on the
shows
show.
with
Yeah.
and stuff like that, they
be
seem
fun. I like-
reasonable.
Okay.
I play. I love spades.
Space
There
is
you
fun.
go. I would love to play spades with you and Chris. I feel like that would be
Yeah,
amazing.
Chris doesn't know how to play spades.
We can teach
Chris
them. Wouldn't that be
Spangle, that's the
hilarious?
show. That's the show
Oh my
right there. You getting
God.
frustrated with Chris for
Nah,
reneging.
you see how she gonna try to put me
And
with the
he's
loser?
on-
Like
yes,
no, no.
that's your
To be
friend.
with him.
He's on your other podcast. Yeah, that would have to be because it has to be a podcast against. Wait, would you
Well,
rather
I
have?
got 2 other podcasts, but you gonna pick the white boy. See what she doing? You see what you doing?
Yeah.
You didn't
I
mention
like winning,
BTS.
Jan. I like winting. But that would be very. Well, would you rather play with Miss Pat or Chris?
Miss Pat, of course.
Oh, yeah, she
Really
is.
though,
'Cause
have you
I
played
know-
space with her? She's a wild card. You never know because she gets distracted.
I know she's gonna fight if we lose, so I'm not worried about
fight.
it.
She
This is
seems
the
like
part I'm
someone who
worried
would be because she's not paying attention because she's doing too much. So no, I'm doing that. I'm just playing Miss Pat. I'm sure a very good space player. No, I would very much. I would want to see that.
Okay.
Like
I'm
Chris
not
struggling
gonna
to
box
play
anything.
spades or
Struggling.
with
You're just
Deon.
assuming the man's gonna
Yeah.
struggle. He's pretty bright. I'm
Everyone
sure he can
struggles
figure
at
it out.
first. Like what? Or maybe he's a spade savant. Who knows?
He might be. We don't know.
I
That
can
would
hear
be
him
fun
now.
to watch.
Boston, bitch. Like, whoa.
That would
calm
be
down.
fun too. He got that black haircut. Who knows what's
He
coming down the
sure
pipe?
did.
Yeah, he was looking
You were
sharp.
looking
Shout out to
Yes,
Spangle.
things are coming up
Yeah.
for Chris. So I'd be scared of Chris. I wouldn't. Yeah,
That's hilarious.
I wouldn't
Oh my God.
automatically assume I'd win.
You
Like
guys
that's
had him
how-
on the show, right?
Yes,
Yeah, we
yes,
did,
yes.
Yeah. Cat was on his show. One of his-
Season liberally or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't go on that one.
We are
little
libertarians.
kids,
Yeah, we are libertarians.
But we hope to be on his show soon to talk about. I want to talk about the fact that he tried to read 100 books last year, or he did.
Yeah,
like,
he read 100 books.
So yeah,
He
we were gonna
lied.
nerd out
Nigga
with
didn't read
him.
100 books.
He has a bookshelf in the background. He's very.
You got Cliff Notes. Stop
He-
lying.
listen. Or
You,
they put
you,
an
you are
audio.
a
We do-
stepdad. You got like
Yo.
8 podcasts that you do.
He
You got
goes
work at
hard.
Bob and
We-
Tom. Like, you don't got time to read all them books.
Well, he might do audio because do you consider it reading if it's audio book?
No, because you're not reading. You're listening.
Well,
I still got the info.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you saying blind people are illiterate?
No, because they can read
Is that your
Braille.
stance?
But what if they're just doing an audiobook? They're not reading.
No, they're listening.
Well, you heard
there's,
it here first.
There's
Dion
a
is
definition
ableist.
for a word, and if it doesn't fit that definition, it's not that thing.
That's fine.
You're
I
listening to a. I don't mind
audio
you.
reading.
That's not a thing.
Wow.
Yes, it is. I just said it.
No, it's,
On media. it
no,
counts.
you're
that's
listening.
How, that's how the internet works now.
This is where we get our news.
So, are you audio reading when you listen to a song?
Yes.
I'm just supporting her at this
I
point.
know
I
you
don't
are.
agree. Yeah, I don't know.
Because you said it in unison. I'm like,
Yes,
here, I'm
yes.
not. I'm not gonna have this argument.
It's cool. I mean, you know what though? I do. Some people do get all like, you didn't really read the book. No, I didn't physically read the book, but I do still have the information, so we can talk about it.
It's not watching the movie.
Yeah,
True that. A step above that.
It is a step above that, and that's all I can dedicate to this fake ass book club.
I've always hated those people. Man, I wouldn't watch the movie. Like, the book is the
It's
better
right
part because you
there.
create the movie
The
in your
imagery,
head. Like, how do you not want to do that?
Oh God! Now
Lack
I'm
of
watching
imagination.
Kindred. It's way more traumatizing watching it.
It is
Like
And
while reading about crepes and watching crepes is really
it's
different.
so different.
So
Do you prefer to read crepes or watch crepes?
I prefer to like have a
Wow.
crepe-free lifestyle, but since that doesn't seem to be an option, then probably if I had to experience some way, probably just read about it.
Yeah.
Because, but I feel like it's important to know what's going on.
It's true. You know what? I feel like this is a great place to take a break. What do
think
y'all
so.
think? Let's take a quick
Yeah.
break, and you guys will be right back. Welcome back from the break.
was a great break.
So really quickly, guys, we're gonna get out of here, but I did want to do A Stranger Than Fiction. Deon he inspired me. So Stranger Than Fiction. Yeah. Yep. I have a New York Times article about Florida rejecting an AP African American Studies class. And of course, this is our fave, right? Governor Ron DeSantis. He's running for office. This is not a political podcast, but this is also something that is Kat and I talk about a lot because, you know, knowledge is power, right? Like reading
Well, we
books.
went to predominantly white, quote. We don't believe in whiteness technically, but for people who consider themselves white, we went to a predominantly white institutions for education.
Mainstream.
Which is AKA
quote unquote
white.
And so they do not like learning about the colors.
They really, really don't. So I'm going to read a little bit of this article, you guys. So Florida will not allow a new advanced placement course on African American studies to be offered in its high schools, stating that the course is not historically accurate and violates state laws. So in a letter last week, the Florida Department of Education informed the College Board, which administers the AP exams, that it wouldn't include the class in the state's course directory. Rigorous AP courses allow high school students to obtain credit and advanced placement in college, which I would have loved in fucking high school.
Oh, you didn't do any AP classes?
No.
And see, you know, a lot of times counselors are
My counselor
usually
was-
quote unquote, what are we calling white?
Mine
And they
wasn't,
don't
and
direct.
he was depressing, and I didn't get any.
Yeah, a lot of times,
I didn't get any
especially
advanced.
women, and
He was like ready to retire. You
People-
could just tell every time I got in front of my counselor, I'm like, you should just go home. Like, you clearly don't
my
wanna be here.
counselors were not great either.
Yeah, so I didn't get a lot of guidance, but-
fortunately, I had like a lot
How
of
big was your
advocacy.
class?
My graduating class?
Mm-hmm.
It was 90 people.
How big was yours?
Probably like 900,
Yeah.
800 and something.
So I understand why your
He was just like, bitch, I don't care.
my
Okay?
counselor, she gave zero fucks. Like she had
Yeah,
so
same.
many of us to counsel. She was like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "I don't want to do
Which-
none of this shit." She's
Right.
like, "All right, well, see, go back
Cool,
to class."
just take this so you can graduate.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
here's what you
Mhm.
need to do to bare minimum stuff.
Yeah.
So I think the reason why this story jumped out to me was just kind of like what we always talk about is that people want to separate history of black people from actual, like it's two different things.
Yeah.
It's like the shit that happened to us while we were here building this country actually does count and matter. And also, you know, sort of trying to strike it down to a point where it's like, yeah, no, we don't want to offer this class. It just kind of,
They don't
It's
think
delusional a
that
little bit.
anything they don't already know is worth knowing.
that part.
So, but that's the opposite of education.
It is.
What it basically will boil down to is them having to accept where they are in life and how they got there,
I know.
and they don't want to
They
do
don't
that.
like that.
They're
And
not
I
It's
finna
get
do
because
that.
they're so Kentucky Fried Awesome, and we are infringing on their Cool Ranch freedoms, and we need to stop being ungrateful darkies. They gave us their
Wow.
white Christ. We should be thankful.
That is true, though. You do get the feeling of like, how dare you, you know. It just, to me, it just goes back to the truth. Like we keep talking about like how truth is empowering. Why does the W and the R together get me? But
May just slow down.
the empowering of like people does improve like
because
everything,
because
right?
once you learn about how awful your parents are, you don't respect them as much, and so they have to.
But do you still love them?
Well, yes, but there's a reason why they don't have the same birth rates they did 40, 50, 60 years ago. Because once you figure out how awesome black people are, you're not going to be, they're not.
You know what was funny? We used to, and especially in Indiana, like they wouldn't let us participate in the state tournament because Negroes were physically inferior. Wasn't that fun? Like that was the official line why we couldn't. I watched the Addicts documentary and they were talking about that because they didn't even have a gymnasium. They were like, they don't need that. Like they used to, when they finally let them have a team, they had to practice on the theater stage because it was like darkies are mentally and physically inferior.
Oh, that's right. That's fake
And it makes it
science.
crazy too because even though like it is sometimes painful to look back on our ancestors and see like the shit that they did, it's like, yeah, they weren't the best. Like we are an improved version, like, and it's fine. And they're our ancestors too. I mean, like I'm willing to admit those people were shit and
No,
they're
I'm
very much my
fully
ancestors
100%
too.
Black. My
It's
shit hasn't been worked out.
pretty obvious. Like, we would be in the Blue Vein Club. Like,
My kids are
yeah.
like so confused.
So
you're
you're
black.
white, yes? It's like,
They're like, so
no,
wait.
no.
Now they're like, Mommy, you're just
maybe
white brown.
by-
I'm like, kind of.
yeah, like this
Beige.
little race-based system that we were going on. But like, yeah, here at Fat, we know what's up.
I mean, it's just really sad to see that they're still trying to, block stuff like this, and they're throwing it under. Like, for one, you've already co-opted the word woke and
Oh
turned
my
it
God.
into something totally different than what it was meant to be. And that's, like, honestly the point. Like, that's the point. Like, we can't have anything. Like, we can't even talk about our history objectively. We can't talk about our experiences objectively, because it hurts your feelings.
Any growth that you achieve that makes me feel bad is unacceptable.
It's unacceptable.
I like how Paul Mooney said it's like,
It's
we
so
don't let
messed
black
up.
people have nothing. It's like, here, but we won't let black people have a headache. It's like, nigga, take this aspirin. You
You
can't have nothing. They'll take
And
everything. So yeah, it takes a nation of millions to hold us back, but you know what?
It's crazy. You
It's
guys,
pretty much over. And that whole thing calling us minorities, we're not minorities.
not in the world, no.
No,
definitely
and
not.
really not even here for real, because they don't want to count like Native Americans. But it's interesting too. Like, if you actually listen to Native Americans who are still around, like, they don't make a separation between black people and Native Americans a lot. Like, there are lots of what we would consider black people who are part of the tribes
for
and stuff
sure.
like that, because like, and
Biology.
I'm gonna stop.
Okay, guys, so you know what? I'm going to add this article to our notes so you guys can read up on this. But I just thought it was stranger than fiction because, I mean, anytime you're trying to exclude the truth from the narrative, it's always a problem. So just, stay So, I don't know.
And Jesus
Makes
was
me sad.
black.
He was, apparently. Honestly, I just feel like it's really sad though. But I mean, that just
hurts
goes
their
to
feelings,
show,
though.
It does, but I mean, like that's the part. Like we're always supposed to be the ones with the hurt feelings when it comes to that kind of stuff. So my thing is read a book, educate yourself, and
also too, because I don't know how the quote unquote white kids were at your high school. I remember at my high school they were very, very against Black History Month, which is coming up. And there would just be all these questions about, like, why do we have Black History Month? Why isn't there a White History Month?
the whole world. Is
And
White
it's
History
like,
Month.
that's
mainstream.
Yeah, right. It's just, exactly. But again, when you get to be blissfully unaware of reality, though, again, you get to be in a bubble. I don't know how much that actually serves you.
I've done a lot of work actually having conversations with people who don't understand what their whiteness means to them. And that work I've always found they literally feel attacked, like physically they have that reaction to, you're trying to hurt me. And it's like, once you can get them past that defensive phase to where they're open to just listening, I'm like, I don't want you to react at all, just listen to the information. And then what you do with that afterwards, I always tell them, I go, I will allow you to have the space that you need with the information, but what you're lacking is the information. So you got to take that information first, and then after you process it, you decide what type of person you want to be after knowing what you know. And I go, I'll respect whether what choice you make, but know that if you make the wrong choice, I'm not fucking with you no more.
And I really recommend that people watch Chelsea Handler's documentary on Netflix. Hello, Privilege, It's Me, Chelsea. I think it's really important to hear it from white people, because from us, it just sounds like complaining. Like,
Absolutely. It's just like women complain about men complain about women. Like, I do understand that there's a certain level of defensiveness that you feel because of your own lived experience, but you have to put yourself in a place to, truly listen and try to understand. And even if you don't understand, respect is all we can really hope for is so value. What are we doing?
Maybe he'll just got away from
It's moving around.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh no!
Lift it up a little. It's fine.
Just respect us, guys. That's all we're asking. That's it. That's it. A little
It's
respect.
like we're people, and
Yeah,
whiteness isn't real.
It's really not. And just, honestly, my thing would just be open to hearing other narratives that don't center you, because I do get how that sucks, like it does. But when you're a black person, for one, you're used to it.
Yeah.
So again, like,
And
the
it's actually
adversity of that
better. Like, I'm
experience
glad
for
that I'm
women.
able to see the humanity in
Yes.
everyone. Life is better that way
Exactly.
instead of just like,
It is.
I'm the most person. It's like, what? Shut
Yeah,
up.
exactly. I expect to get my feelings hurt. Like, I expect to not be understood sometimes.
Yeah, I'm wrong sometimes.
That part. And so
God
anyway,
didn't
that story.
select my skin color.
I did not, and but at the same time, I do feel like what Deon is saying is important too. Is like, you know, depending on the day, like don't get me
Depending
wrong.
on the day.
Depending on the day, like I might not have the space and time and patience to even do that and be that person to here's my story
Your
and blah
thing
blah
is,
blah.
a lot of times people think you're one of the good ones because you're so light.
Is
And
it?
it's like you've obviously been, mellowed out.
Mm.
And so.
And actually, I feel like that's so interesting because you think about like a lot of the people in our, you think about Angela Davis and you think about Malcolm X. These were fairer skinned black folks and they went fucking hard. And that's usually, I don't know if that's like you trying to make up for it. It's like, no, I'm black.
You know what it is? And I've figured this out too because I was briefly spent some time in Nation of Islam. Even there, their leadership is mostly light-skinned people.
They
I
be
think
going
it's
hard.
because we, for whatever reason, like we are so programmed, we have to hear it from light lips.
It's so crazy.
It's so
the
messed up. We
dumbest shit
still
ever.
feel hostility towards.
our own selves.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever read that book by Deborah Miller, Waking Up White?
No, but I have heard about it though.
So I went to a book signing of hers where she did a speech, and I got, or not Deborah Miller, Deborah Irving
Okay.
is her last name. And she was talking about how it took her forever to receive the message of black pain until she heard it from a white person. It was like that benefit
That
of
part.
doubt to, I need to hear it from somebody who looks like me. And I've always
Found
I've
it.
always felt like black people will never be saved by black people
Yeah.
because we aren't the ones who put us in this situation. It's like it takes the creator to destroy what they created. And I'm like,
wow.
that's so you're gonna need ladies like Jane Elliott and
she is
to
like
to
a-
I
ex-
very much enjoyed it.
right to
Elliott.
explain what
Break it
is
down.
happening because they can't hear it from us because all they hear is complaining. And It's
Right.
like once you are able to get them out of that situation, it's like they're much more open to all the information.
You know what I always say? I feel like it's gotten worse now because we don't have Oprah. Like I felt like for a long time in the 90s. Think about this.
She
You
made
need
some
that
nice white
black
people.
wo-
She made them
woman
read
consciousness. Yo,
She made them hoes read.
and
she
then
kept them comfortable.
She did well that too.
She kept them comfortable, and she was able. They were disarmed in a way that they were willing to listen. Because at the end of the day, you have to be willing
That's the
to
only
listen.
way you. That's the only way you
And
can
she was
break
able to
that wall.
do that. And I feel like maybe we can be the new Oprahs.
Maybe.
Well, no, we're probably gonna hurt your feelings.
No, we are not comfortable. No, we are not.
No, but I
respectable
mean, I
enough.
do think that we open up the conversation. Like at the end of the day, like, but you have to you have to be willing to be uncomfortable a little bit. That's just part of it.
I play poker in Lebanon
So.
a lot.
Ah,
Right. And everybody who I play poker with in Lebanon is at least 15 to 20 years older than me. And they're all older white people, right?
Okay.
yeah, we've been to Lebanon.
And so
Yeah, I have some friends there.
I play at the Legion, and we all know what these legions in small towns look like, right? So when I remember the first time I walked in there, and no one knew who I was, and they were like, they're asking me all these questions, like, how'd you know about this place? And I was like, I saw it on
how the fuck
Facebook.
did you get
You know what I mean? I was like, I saw it was $25. I got $25. I want to play, right? And I was expecting the good old boy from everybody. I only got it from like 2 or 3 people. And then everybody else, like, we got to talk, and I was like, look, I'm not here to ruin what you got going on. But while I'm here, what you got going on's got to stay back there.
Oh,
If that makes sense. I was like,
See?
this is public space. I don't
Yes.
care what your beliefs are. What you do at home is what you do at home. But when you're in shared space, it's shared space. So every right you think you have, guess what? I got it too.
Right,
And
there's
so
that.
if you can't
deal
handle
with
that,
it.
then I think you need to go back in the back room because we're here. We're not going anywhere.
Like I said, we're not because honestly, and this is so deep, but like when I'm reading all these books, putting all this history together, it seems like the colonists or explorers, whatever you want to call the people, explorers who went out, they didn't have a map of the world. Like they really thought they were most of the world. So they go out into all this stuff talking about they're the majority and stuff like that, and they're gonna, take over. When they started doing this, they had no idea how big Africa was. They didn't know how big the United
don't
States
know
was,
now.
and how these civilizations have been there for thousands of years. So, like to them, they can tell themselves this story that we went out and civilized the world, and there were like maybe a couple of tribes here and there, but those are minorities. We are And it's like they can kind of keep telling themselves that lie. So now that they're getting scared that like, oh crap, we brought democracy when we're not really the majority. They've created an illusion of majority. They're not really though. So that's what the fear is, because they're afraid like they're going to be treated the way that they've been treating people.
Yep.
But where it's like we don't even have an interest in that. It's like
we could have done that. There was way more of us than there was of y'all. Like if we
On a
really
plantation?
if we
Come
wanted
on
that
now.
smoke, we'd have set that fire.
like
We just want to be happy. I think at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like most people of color just want to be happy. It seems like that to me anyway.
Gone with that bullshit.
Yes.
That's
Leave it
all.
alone.
Gone with
Yeah,
that
we are
bullshit.
not trying to do the same thing. We're
Yeah.
not. And the thing is, too, because maybe we don't evolutionary have that anxiety because it comes down to eugenics and they've selected for recessive
that part.
genetics and we're dominant, so we don't really worry about that as much. It was a weird choice for artificial selection to go
on
with
that note,
recessive
guys.
phenotypes.
Oops.
They fucked up and taught me genetics, so
Yeah, man. Pundit squares.
Yeah,
really
they
got
should
the
have taught
message
me
in ninth
that.
grade.
I
Yeah,
was
they
as soon as
shouldn't.
that clicked. I think that was like sixth grade, sixth, seventh grade. I was like, oh, that's what
Got
they.
it.
Oh, y'all did it wrong.
My God.
I feel
love
like
it.
Bill Burr brought that up. He was like, yeah, you. When they're talking about eugenics and you breed the strongest with this, like I think we already accidentally did that.
Yeah.
It happened. It happened. Yep. It happened. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Deon, we're gonna let you get out of here. I do want to thank you again for being here.
Absolutely. I love talking to you guys.
This was super dope. Can you let our listeners know where they can find you? What you have coming up next? Shout yourself out real quick.
Perfect. You can find me on all social media at BrightFame4. BRIGHTFAME, the number 4. I didn't pick it. My name was already chosen. I'm doing some shows here locally. February 13th, I will be at the White Rabbit opening for my good buddy Lucas Waterfield. Very, very funny guy. He's shooting his first comedy special. So you can get tickets on the White Rabbit's website. I don't know what that is, but
I'll find it, put it in the notes.
I love that venue.
yeah.
It was, we did
Yeah,
a burlesque.
yeah.
Well, we didn't do one. We saw
You went
one.
to a
It was
burlesque?
good. It
Yeah.
was dope. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was cool.
And then my podcasts are The Pat Down with Miss Pat, Sorry We're Canceled with BT, and Chris Bangle. I'm sorry, he's on The Pat Down. And then Now That's Debatable, which is a Facebook Live show with Sydney Smith and Warren B. Hall every Monday night at 9 p.m.
Excellent.
You can join each one of those podcasts has a Facebook group that you can join. The Pat Down is the Crack Baby group.
We're part of that.
Yay.
Sorry We're Canceled podcast group is the name for Sorry We're Canceled, and Now That's Debatable podcast group for Now That's Debatable.
That's what's up. Well, this has been a treat. I truly thank you. This has been a really great conversation, you guys. I love it.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Of course. Anytime. I was like, maybe this is our thing. Maybe every January.
I
we
want to get both of
together.
you guys on Now That's Debatable, so I will be
Let's do
getting in
it.
contact with you guys because
Please do.
We record a lot on Monday evening, so we're used to it.
Yeah.
perfect.
Yep. I mean, after 9 o'clock is perfect. My kids are asleep.
Perfect.
Virtual. Got my little setup.
And I just like to talk.
I know, me too. It's fun. Yeah, this has been really, really cool. So thank you again for being here. Kat, you got anything else to add? Or are we out
Your
of here?
body belongs to you,
I knew yours.
so have some fun with it.
Definitely
And
have
try
some
to
fun.
avoid crepe.
Crepe is the worst. Bye, guys. Peace.
Before we go, we must give thanks to Urban Nerd for providing our music, and legal services were handled by Trezanae M. Atkins. If you like what you heard, please feel free to join us every Wednesday for another fake-ass book club. Cheers.
Thank you guys for listening. You can check us out at thefabpodcast.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you're listening right now. We want to hear from you. Come put it in our life. Thanks again, and until next time, peace, love, and the Fake Ass Book Club. We out.